Hello everyone and welcome to today's class. This is the second lecture of integrated project delivery. Uh, we we discussed about the first parts like what it is and some identifying characteristics of integrated project delivery. So if you remember, just to have a quick review, the basic or the fundamental thing about IPD is that in IPD there is a single contract between the owner, the constructor, and the designer. Okay, so this is one important thing about it. There is a single contract. Uh, in IPD, everyone is committed to fight for the common interest of the project, and that is in contrast with traditional delivery methods in which every party or the primary project players are working to take care of, the party that they represent. So it's based on self-interest. But here, all the risk is distributed between team players. They all work together for, for finishing the project within the budget and within the time limit with the scope that is identified by maximizing collaboration. Okay, so collaboration is the key term when you're talking about IPD. Means that everyone is contributing to another. All the people who are involved, all the personnel, they are hand in hand working for the common interest of the project. You might ask, you also mentioned this last time. Okay, so before I mention that, IPD, based on the experience and based on the investigations, it increases the value of the project. It most of the time, leads to project savings and lower the expenditures of the project. But it is not. It is the least common delivery methods. And even in many public projects in many states, it is not even allowed. So you might ask why that is. I mean, now that we know it contributes to quality, to cost savings, and even to it shrinks the time of the project. So it's a great thing. I mean, better quality with lower money. Why not? Why it is not? I mean, people don't like that. The reason to that is that it is not easy because in construction projects, it's not easy to implement IPD because in construction projects, you're talking about millions of dollars. Okay, so there is a lot of risks, and everybody wants to shift the risk to another. Um, but in IPD, such an environment does not exist. Even in some IPD, not all of them, in some IPD projects, people people sign a form in which they waive their right to sue against other parties. It means they are committed not to sue against anybody else on the project, okay? Regardless of whatever happens. If someone screws up, you cannot put the blame on them. The entire team will be punished. They all will have to work harder to recover from, the situation that has been created because of a mistake or negligence or whatever. So it's not easy to identify the responsible party when something goes wrong, and that's why many people don't like it. In construction projects, communication has always been an issue. People have a lot of communication problems, and by that we don't mean having a nice behavior like saying how you're doing when you enter the room. No, it means the way you communicate what is in your mind in a way that everybody else will understand the same thing. So when we are talking about communication in construction projects, this is what we mean. It means um, effective use of words or whatever communication tools so it in a way that minimizes confusions, misunderstandings, or anything that could affect the project negatively. Okay, so IPD in IPD, collaboration is the essence, and the essence of collaboration is communication. So unless we have a team who are great in communication, we cannot implement IPD. It also is about the behavior and way of thinking of people. If we have people who are not flexible, who don't want to change the decisions they made, uh, they can, I mean, it will be very difficult for them to be in an IPD project. We also mentioned that the, so in IPD, many times you have to um, make your job harder because it will contribute somehow to the team. Okay, and you should be willing to do that. You should be willing to kind of make sacrifices so the project will go faster, less costly, or other team players will have an easier job. Um, so these were some of the items we discussed about IPD, and now let's continue the topic. So we mentioned that low bid procurement is almost impossible with IPD because because we cannot select a team. We cannot select any team who is bidding the lowest. We need a team who qualifies because we are talking about a special delivery method that not everybody can do. So we want to make sure the people have some experience in IPD projects before this, or that's why qualification-based selection is the most is the primary procurement method when it comes to IPD. So the owner selects the designer and the contractor based solely on qualifications. So this is one of the two. We have two procurement methods. So we're talking about first of them being QBS. Most of the time, because there should be some kind of competition between different volunteers, between different contractors, constructors, designers, whatever. So most of the time, the owner has some criteria set before they would announce the opportunity for different, companies to volunteer for this project. I'm not saying to bid for this project because they're not really bidding. So, yeah, the owner will put some criteria, pre-identified criteria, and they could put a score for each criteria to create a kind of rating. So they give scores to different teams based on those criteria, and obviously the team with the highest score will be awarded the contract. So the owner may also decide upon a short list of firms, yeah, especially in projects that are more profitable or easier to do. Sometimes you will get a lot of offers from different companies, and you cannot actually go into, you cannot. Um, you cannot investigate all those companies. You cannot uh, collect information about all of them. So most of the time, um, the owner will shortlist the applicants, and those that are qualified will go to the second round, which is a tougher competition, and in which the owner will investigate the details or whatever factors that are important for them to select the final winner. In best value fees, um, for sometimes, for example, in the case of public projects, well, I know IPD is not allowed in almost in many states for public projects at this point. If you're watching this video, later. I'm talking about year 2020, okay? Because IPD is moving fast and it is expected to grow in future. But anyway, for owners required to include price, sometimes you have to include price if you're talking about a public project. Then, but you still want to have um, a lot of to put a lot of weight for qualification. That's why you would go with best value fees. Okay, so that is a mixture of qualification criteria, qualifications, plus some fees. So we're not necessarily talking about the physical construction fees, because the design in most cases, when you want to do an IPD, the design is not 100% complete. So bidding is uh, is literally impossible because you don't have the design yet. So you cannot develop any estimates. But you have some general conditions, you have some fees, and you can some I mean the applicants could have some guesses about the reimbursable costs. So in this case, the owner will take into consideration both their qualifications and the numbers they are offering and make the final decision accordingly. Now, it is asking, can IPD use low bid or best value total cost selection method? Can you make a guess? I actually mentioned the answer in the previous slide. So, since this type of selections requires some level of design to be developed, okay, and typically foster a more adversarial risk-based relationship, it is very difficult, next to impossible, to have low bid as the selection method. I mean, it just doesn't work with IPD. And when you do low bid or when you do best value total cost, um, the environment that is required for IPD, the spirit of IPD just fades away. Okay, because in IPD we want all the team to work together, not to try to shift the risk from themselves or put themselves in the safe zone. So it even if it could work sometimes or with some modifications, if you do these types of selection methods, the spirit of IPD will disappear from the job. Yeah, because in that case, the team will be locked into a total price, okay? And so everybody is stressed to meet that cost, or otherwise they have to pay it from their pocket. So there is an adversarial environment or atmosphere on the job side. On the project. Basis of reimbursement options in IPD. If you remember, we mentioned last time that target price works smoothly. That's the perfect option for IPD. Reason number one is that in IPD, you want to bring everybody on board from the early stages, and you want to, um, share the responsibilities, the risks, and the awards of the project between all primary project players. So the only reimbursement methods in which all of the parties were involved, including the designers, was target price. That's why target price would work smoothly with IPD. So target price, in fact, is the catalyst for an actual reduction in project risk, because everybody is involved. You cannot feel that, okay, even if they mess up, even if they screw, I'm in the safe zone. I don't care. Let them do whatever they want. No, such a culture does not exist in target price, and that's the spirit of IPD, in which everybody should forget about the self-interest and just consider the interest of the project. So Target price, however, is not the only possible reimbursement method when you are using IPD as a delivery method. Another option for you would be not to exceed guaranteed maximum price. Okay. It is not, however, it is not as good as, target price. The reason why is that it diminishes or it reduces the collaborative behavior that normally exists when target price is the basis of reimbursement. So in guaranteed maximum price, everybody is locked into a price, and people will be trying to watch for their own interests, and again, that would negatively affect IPD. So we mentioned last time two important tools that contribute significantly to IPD. One was building information modeling, and the second one was the lean construction methods and tools. So again, BIM, maybe you could think of this slide as a reminder or as a review because we covered this. But what BIM does is that it enables the project players to share all the information about the project in real time. Okay, so we know that IPD is completely open book. Uh, all the cost information is available for all the project players. Well, unless you want to make some modifications, but the genuine IPD is based on 100% open book, policy. So BIM enables that by sharing the information digitally, which is a lot easier to understand in 3D modeling between all the project players. So in addition to potential benefits of offering 3D visualization to users early in the process, okay, IPD participants can use the model as a tool to assist in evaluating and providing input to the design. Yeah, if you remember last time we said in IPD, to maximize collaboration, you should bring everybody on board. I mean, primary project players on board from the early stages of project. I mean, from pre-design. And the advantage of that, if you remember, we mentioned that the most important advantage would be people will provide feedback to the designers. Okay, this is not limited to the constructors. Sometimes you can even invite suppliers or main trade contractors or subs to the project so they can provide some input or insight for the designers, and the designer will try to reflect those feedback in their work, so the result will be something that is working smoothly for all the constructor, all the people on the field. So BIM contributes to that. BIM helps the people, helps the non-designers, constructor, supplier, everybody else, to share digitally and visually their information, their expectation, their concerns with the designers. So it's not just words that has the chance of being misinterpreted or whatever. You are showing what you have in mind digitally, and visually, so there is a lot less chance that people misunderstand what you have in mind. So, the designers misunderstand what other people have in mind. How is change management in IPD? So, in IPD, change orders have a very different mechanism. And actually, that's one of the reasons traditional professionals are not, welcoming to IPD, because in many IPD projects, there is literally no change order process. If you remember our previous lectures, change order process was a long process that usually, should, if it is initiated by the contractor, it should go up. The designer should approve it, and then the owner should approve it, and then the designer should look again and make sure it is working, it is doable, and then they approve it, and then send it back to the contractor. Each one of these, steps could take some time, so it is a time-consuming process. Contractors don't necessarily like it because it most of the time prolongs the duration of the project, except the case of subtractive, not additive, but subtractive changes, which could, have impacts on the money they make out of the project. Well, depending on the contract, they might have their own mechanism to protect themselves, against that. But anyway, so change order is time-consuming thing, but it takes care that nobody, after the signatures are on the contract, everybody stays committed to what they have agreed upon. Okay, so here making changes is a lot easier. Is a lot, you don't have you don't feel a force against making changes, so that increases the possibility of changes. Okay, and then the team must be welcoming to the change, because they're working like a family. They're not standing against one another. Okay, so most of the time, for additional expenses, they rely on the pooled contingency. Okay, if you remember, we said redundant contingencies are reduced in the case of IPD, because um, we don't have to put one contingency for design, one for construction. There is a single contingency pool. Um, so one of its applications is to protect the project for change orders when they make, they lead to additional costs. Yeah, an IPD contract often stipulates that there are no change orders except for specific conditions, such as owner-initiated changes, site changes, site conditions, changes in laws or regulation, or termination. Okay, um, I mean, the contractor, cannot initiate a change order in IPD projects unless certain cases that I just mentioned. The IPD team evaluates any change, and when we say the team, it means all the primary players and all of the trades, suppliers, or whoever that this decision might impact them. They make a decision collaboratively, and then they work together to minimize or eliminate the cost. That's why IPD is great, because people work together and people try to fill the gap for one another in a way that they could smoothly continue the project. How about claims and disputes? If you remember, some, and I emphasize not all of multi-party IPD contracts, they sign a form based on which they waive their right to make claims against each other. It means whatever happens, they have signed a form. It mean, even if they place a claim against one another, that is not effective because they have committed not to do so. Well, while this seems to be one of the most one of the most important reasons why many people try to avoid IPD, it is wrong to think that this is required. Well, you could have something between. You could say no claims at all, or any claims are possible, or somewhere in between, like specific claims. If these things happen, yes, you can claim. If these things happen, claims are not allowed. And then people sign it. So it's just you. I mean, you can modify the contract anyway that works for the people who are going to sign it. Okay, so you're trying to um, create a win-win situation for everybody. So let me take a quick look at the time if my mouse helps me. So it's now 25 minutes. Okay, not too bad. Um, so um, this, I mean, the no change order, the no claim, no dispute um, situation incentivizes the team to resolve their issues collaboratively. So instead of point pointing at finger pointing at one another, uh, we don't care who caused this problem. We have to solve it together. This is a culture of IPD. So um, because of the collaborative environments that you will see in almost any IPD project, there is a very low occurrence of any major disputes. But when they happen, the team would do their best to resolve it in-house or internally. Um, excuse me, let me get my camera back. All right. So yeah, the people will try to do it in house to resolve it in house. I mean, that should be the effort. That should be the case in almost any construction project, because once you can mediate, you can resolve it internally. It's a lot easier than um, it elevating it to higher levels or to the court, ending up in the court, which takes a lot of time. That's a headache for everybody. So, but in case of IPD, it's if disputes and claims happen at all, it is a lot easier to resolve them. Okay, because according to the contract limits the situation in which a party could remove the responsibility from their shoulder and put it on another party's shoulder. So there is less incentive in teams in doing so because the contract limits them to do so. Okay, so that's why disputes, if they happen, most of the time they're just resolved internally. Fast tracking in IPD, if you remember, fast tracking is when two phases of construction happen simultaneously, which in most cases, like those two phases are design and construction. So the design is only a few steps ahead of construction. I mean, the design is prepared for the upcoming month, and then the construction is following the design. So, like CM at risk in design build, the ability to overlap design and construction is facilitated. Yeah, in fact, you could do fast tracking in all the delivery methods except for design bid build, in which the design should be 100% ready before you go ahead for bidding. Different from design build and CMAR, the ability to include trade contractors and suppliers as parties to the multi-party contract is available in IPD, because at the end of the day in IPD they will sign a single contract. Okay, so that enables them to come on board at early stages of the project, which is always a great thing if we can make it happen. When parties come on board, well, it creates some more headaches for the designers because now they have more expectations to meet. Okay, so it's not that easy. But on the other hand, um, once the design is ready, it is something that includes the inputs, the insights, the feedback of the primary people on the field, and the design is more, I mean, is more realistic, can be, can, come to reality more easily. All right, so how about insurance? An IPD project dramatically alters the insurance approach. Yeah, so that's why a lot of things are very different, significantly different when it comes to IPD, and that makes people resistant to uh, adopt IPD as the delivery method. So what is that difference? The tension between the traditional fault-based system, who did that, who is at fault, and who should, be protected. That philosophy does not exist. So um, you might say, is it a good? You might ask, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Um, to be honest with you, that is a problematic thing. Okay, because it does not tell us. Sometimes it leads to confusion between the team players, um, because it is very difficult to put a clear-cut boundary between the party who was in charge, as uh, many things in many tasks, all the team players have been involved. Even the decisions they have made have been made collaboratively. So it's not easy to say who was at fault for a certain thing. Yeah, although the lines between the parties' traditional responsibilities becomes blurred, uh, you could still, you could still identify the person in charge, okay, in some cases, but that is in contrast with the spirit of IPD again, okay? So insurance is problematic, is a source of confusion for, even in the case of IPD. So we talked about lean construction in previous lecture. Uh, Lean enables IPD, and even if you don't want to have a single contract and you don't want to choose IPD officially as the delivery method of your project, if you choose Lean with other delivery methods, you can take advantage of a lot of, uh, you know, a lot of nice things that IPD offers. Okay, so in case you don't want to select IPD, go with Lean, because that's not a delivery method. That's a philosophy that could be implemented in almost any construction project, but it has a lot of overlaps with IPD that leads to taking advantage of some of the benefits of IPD. And in case you have selected IPD as your delivery method, then Lean would substantially contribute to your project. Okay, um, let's watch a video together that explains very well about IPD, and then we will wrap this up.
At the heart of delivering workplace design are the people who
Oops.
At the heart of delivering workplace design are the people who complete the work that constitutes project delivery. To accomplish business objectives, the entire team needs to work together. Often people with the responsibility to build are the last to understand or be consulted on what is really needed.
Yeah, that doesn't it? Sound like a weird thing. A weird thing that has become normal. The people who should actually get the job done, the builders, are involved in the process as the last people, while they are the people who should get the job done. But their input and their insight is most of the time, with the traditional delivery methods, it is just neglected. So IPD solves that issue.
To achieve our client's business objectives, M. Moser illustrated how project work is accomplished by mapping out project activity. To clarify roles and collaborative interaction, who needs to work with whom, when, and about what? When all who have a stake in the project are working together early and proactively, we call this integrated project delivery. It begins with the people. For most workplace projects, the team would usually consist of our client's people, the M. Moser project leadership, the designers and engineers, specialists, contractors, subcontractors, trades and vendors, and the end users who will occupy the workplace. Brief, discovery, and information gathering. We meet to discuss the information about the new project. We strive to get to know the client people and their business needs. All aspects of the project are discussed. It is important to establish scope, budget, and time expectations. Get to know the project site. Where business is undergoing change, the challenges and opportunities are explored with strategic planning. We develop a consolidated brief of requirements. We also discuss the deeper concerns of individuals and the values of the company as a whole. Different people likely have different goals. We seek to understand, become a trusted advisor, and lead. We consolidate and review all this information and then start putting it to use. Schematic design. The team led by M. Moser uses the information gathered to design. We develop a clear understanding of the goals and objectives. A project team is established. Together, we discuss how we will communicate and who will take on what project roles. In IPD, it is a team effort, not an individual one. Working in a style and a medium where all can participate is essential. It is also an opportunity for our clients to participate. We are usually trying to show the evolution of the design, solve specific problems, and demonstrate specific benefits to an approach. The M. Moser leadership helped the team take the broad view of the project and anticipate the next steps. We review the schematic design, and together, we agree a way forward that meets our client's needs. Integrated development. In developing the design, we need to leverage the team's full capabilities. No one person has all the knowledge and answers. That's why we use an integrated approach. We need to have clear communications, especially as there are time constraints. Developing the right information requires knowing who will build from it. And this is where IPD diverges from traditional design, bid, and build methods. We bring the construction team and specialists together early to participate fully by working in a collaborative and real-time medium through actual working sessions. We are moving away from paper-based, flat, and disassociated information to a 3D medium of collaboration. This enables team participation from all the people who are critical to success but would normally be engaged far too late. We have the ability and technology to design together, to test assumptions, and to gain the entire team's valuable input as a real team early with everyone cooperating and pulling in the same direction. We can take the team to the construction site virtually before building in reality, providing good options and eliminating guesswork. Project costs and time need to be continuously reviewed and tracked. Under M. Moser's leadership, risk is effectively managed. To do this, we discuss what those risks might be together and plan contingencies as a team. Site startup and construction. Site activity usually begins with a handover of the premises and a review of the building site. A construction startup meeting is conducted, but thanks to early involvement in IPD, Most have already been deeply involved all along. Site safety is everyone's first priority. And Moser leadership ensure a free flow of information occurs with no outdated or superseded information. There may be an IT team working towards their program for the new workplace requiring coordinated efforts. Inspections are not only handled at completion, we perform inspections all the way through. At any time, we can collaborate live or have a team member participate remotely, keeping all participants included. Completion, handover, and finalization. When all the construction is complete, the premises is handed back to the client. This usually occurs concurrently with a final inspection. This is not the end of activity. There may be non-conforming items to rectify, a list of works to be done as additional items. Completion marks the point where the client can move in and take over. Even if not involved in the relocation, our team is standing by to assist. And Moser professionals continue to be of service to our clients beyond the project completion. It is best if we can review with the team how we have helped meet our clients' business objectives and how we can improve. And we ask ourselves, how have we helped others on the team to be successful? With hundreds of successful projects delivered using design-led IPD, M. Moser is the leader in the creation of workplaces globally.
Okay. So, in the last two slides to wrap up this topic, I have provided some bullet points about the lessons learned from IPD. So the people who have done it suggest these things. Engagement of an IPD consultant. An IPD consultant, the reason for that is that it is progressive, it's a new delivery method. It has some ups and downs and some gaps that, I mean, if you have not done that before, you might be in, you might end up with big troubles because, because of because of the differences, because of the how it is significantly different from other delivery methods. So you would bring an IPD consultant to orient the team and to guide their development. Okay, this person is not necessarily the project manager, so we don't call him or her project manager. This is just an IPD consultant. It means they provide feedback, they have a vision about what will happen next, and based on that, they try to guide the team to make better decisions um, in a way that IPD advantages are not faded. Participation in negotiation workshops. This is important. Again, the more collaboration and engagement of primary project player, the better IPD could be implemented. So that's why participation in negotiation workshops in which they conceptualize the project, they identify the main goals of the project is very important. Early involvement and greater participation in the incentives. Yeah, so when you're putting the incentive, you should make sure that it is not beneficial only to few people on the project. The entire team should be incentivized, to achieve the owner's goal. Jointly developed and validated cost targets. What does it mean? So, for determining the right time to set the target price, it is very important to have IPD participants involved in determining the right value. Okay, because we have to come up with a value and then suggest it to the owner, and then the owner has to approve it. But for coming into a more realistic number, you should make sure to bring all the people who will be involved on board very early. Okay. Utilize co-location means um, in IPD it goes a long way if you can gather all the people together under the same ceiling and you remove the walls, because here communication and collaboration are the basis of success in IPD. So you want to facilitate, you want to let the conversation, let the communication happen smoothly at all times. And co-location, or working together physically, um, will have a huge impact in making that possible. Engage in an IPD pilot project. It means before we officially start IPD, you could practice it in a pilot basis, okay? Uh, and collect the lessons learned and find the gaps, find the issues in there, and then try to fix it in a way that works internally for your team, according to the people, to the resources you have, and then you can bring the lessons learned to a real project. So IPD, for the many advantages it offers to construction projects, including improving the quality, um, minimizing the costs, and shrinking the project duration. It is expected to grow in the future. It is a still evolving delivery methods due to its significant differences with other with other delivery methods. But again, as I mentioned, you could always make some modifications in IPD, and even if you don't want to select IPD as a delivery method, you can still use lean construction as the philosophy. So the spirit of IPD will be in your project without officially having it chosen as your delivery method. All right, so that completes our lecture today. Uh, Thank you for watching, and I see you all next time.